Have we let, because do you think America's still a Christian nation?
No.
Do you think America is still a Christian nation? And Tucker's answer is no. Has America ever been a Christian nation? Yes, we've been influenced by Christian principles. And yes, some of our founding fathers had theology degrees. But have we ever been a overtly Christian nation? I mean, I guess we're as much of a Christian nation as Israel is a Jewish nation. But Israel is still a secular nation, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but in Israel, you got Jerusalem, which is the most religious city in the world, 30 minutes away from Tel Aviv, which is the most secular, affirming city in the world. I think America is a Christian nation in the same way that Israel is a Jewish nation. No. How about that?
What is it?
It's an LLC, as you said. So
it's an LLC, as you said. Wow.
Brilliantly, actually. Again,
we've entered privatized communism, it feels like to me.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, no one's for the free market. Everyone's for using power to hobble their competitors. You know, everyone's into, the only reason we have regulations is to create monopolies. The system is completely rigged. And you know that. You're asking, how do you get reliable information about the news? The news media want to talk about race. That's like their main thing that they want to talk about. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. But that's actually not an interesting conversation because you can't change your race, and like people are different races and they're sort of different, but they're also very much the same. It's like not that interesting a topic to me personally. I'm not interested in talking about race. What's really interesting is that the United States of America is being looted by a small number of people who are getting away with it, and they don't want to talk about that.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so he said a whole lot here. Okay, let's break it down. The first part that always has my spidey senses tingling. I don't care if it's folks on the far left or folks on the far right who say this. The system is rigged. Now, are there aspects of different systems that are rigged? Sure. But both sides, notice both sides, the people that talk about race, what are they getting at ultimately? The system is rigged. The little man can't get ahead. The system is rigged. This race can't get equal opportunity. The system, right? Those are the folks on the left. This marginalized group can't get equality. Then there's a whole other conversation what equality means. And on the right, they're saying the system is rigged because the media it creates a curated version of the left talking points. Is the system rigged? I think some systems are rigged. I think our food system is rigged. I was just over in Europe, London, Paris. You'd be surprised how many of the foods we have, how many ingredients we have in all of our food that are banned in Europe. The media here. Did you know that like America is one of two nations where pharmaceutical companies can advertise on TV? Can't advertise in places like London and places like Paris? That's interesting. So the media is oftentimes ran by these pharmaceutical companies. That's not allowed in other countries. I think it's like here in New Zealand, the only place you could advertise, big pharma can advertise. Okay, so maybe there's something to that. But to generally say the system is rigged, I just think it's just such a, in what sense? Because to me, the system is rigged would mean that we have a caste system of sorts where people can't move up and down the either a socioeconomic ladder or a personal ladder. And I don't believe that.
They never want to talk about economics. They never want to talk about the tax code. They never want to talk about any of that stuff ever. And that's how you know that CNBC and CNN and the New York Times, all those people are like looking out for you, are actually just the Praetorian Guard standing in front of the people with the most power and money and keeping the masses from asking uncomfortable questions. And so whenever anyone asks about like, well, wait a second, why do we tax people at half the rate for investing that we do for working? Literally, they pay half the tax rate. So you have a job and you work every day and you pay one rate, but if you just stay home and invest money and live off the interest, you pay half as much. So are we saying it's twice as virtuous to invest as it is to work?
Well, we incentivize things that we want people to do. We want people to put money in the market because money in the market grows our GDP, and because it grows our GDP, therefore, you want to incentivize that. The same way that if you're filing married joint, you are incentivized versus if you're filing single, right? If you're cohabitating, filing single separate versus if you're married. So we incentivize different activities, and we incentivize people putting money in the market by letting them get taxed. I'm not sure if Tucker's getting at the point that, I think taxes in general are too much, my honest opinion, but I don't know where he's going with this. Let's hear him out though.
Is that what we're saying?
So if you're a day trader or just trading stocks or something, you don't have to
pay. Or
if
if you're a private equity guy and you can claim that your income is actually interest on your investments, you pay half the taxes.
Yeah, this is a lot of folks right now who buy investment properties not because they're making money off of property, but because they can use it as a great tax benefit, right? And so again, some of these things kind of could get abused, right? Some of these things get abused.
So we have a tax code that discourages work and encourages parasitic behavior. Now, there are arguments on both sides, and I'm not an economist, but you don't even hear those arguments because it's like, shut up, racism, trannies, or whatever. It's all a distraction from what the real story is, which is they're looting the country.
Looting.
And at this point, we can't repay the debt that we owe. So it's going to be like, well, unfortunately, we had to sell Yellowstone. And no, I mean, it's going to get to the point where we're
and
auctioning.
now we sold it to Asians.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Where we're.
He thinks that because America's $30 trillion in debt, that we're going to start selling off American national properties. This took a weird turn, man. I don't know what to think of this. I like Tucker's honesty, but friends, you got to understand that just in the same way we laugh at folks who talk about their truth, your truth, my truth, in the same way we have to understand just because Tucker's candid and he has an honesty about him, which is refreshing, doesn't mean it's always the truth, right? Because we could put a pin in this and come back to this. When will they sell Yellowstone? When will we start selling off property to China? In 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years? That's the thing. Like, yes, you could speak your thoughts and beyond, but just because you're honest doesn't mean it's necessarily the truth.
I mean, what?
And then they're going to say the sale was racist too. That's going to be the craziest part.
No, you're asking questions about it is racist.
Okay.
Yeah, you're always the
now. People should be allowed to ask questions. I think trying to level racism towards everything is pretty wild. The way I understand it, China owns a lot of federal property because we owe it to China. I don't think so. I just know in yesterday's debate, Mark, that Ron DeSantis banned China from being able to buy property in North Carolina. Ron DeSantis, a governor, banned China from being able to buy property in North Carolina. So I think that's if Ron DeSantis can ban China from buying property in a state, I'm pretty sure we can mitigate how and what influence they have, right? We're trying to ban TikTok, which I think eventually will get banned, and I think it should be banned. So I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, just to be clear, you're always the racist. Hey. Louisiana man. He wasn't David Duke from Louisiana. Shut up, Klansman.
Dude, I used to lift weights with David Duke.
Oh, God. In prison?
No.
I can see you guys in the yard. All the Aryan Nation guys. He's like on your back as you're doing push-ups.
Bro, I was never in any Aryan Nation, dude,
Not even.
They're laughing about me. He's like, oh, just never.
In prison?
No, I never even went to any of their meetings or anything. I saw
California does have terrible leadership. I would agree, Mark. I would totally agree with you. And I'm in California. Yeah. We need to get him out of there. Chinese firms and investors own over 338,000 acres in the United States, less than the state of Rhode Island, far less than how much Canada, Netherlands, Italy, the UK, and Germany in that order each own. Okay, so let's look up how many total acres there are in the United States. I think that makes my point. 2.4 billion acres would it be? Okay, a million is 1,000 billion. And China owns, private investors, firms own a third of a million. All right, so I think we're going to be able to fight off the communists here, guys, respectfully. It's not something I'm concerned about, okay, respectfully. Okay, now, someone said, I have heard of China attempting to buy the water rights in parts of Arizona, but that got shut down. No, not China, Saudi. In Arizona, fresh scrutiny of Saudi-owned farms' water use, okay? In rural Arizona, La Paz County on the state's rugged border with California, the decision by a Saudi-owned dairy company to grow and La Full of something, Southwestern livestock, the Gulf Kingdom raised eyebrows nearly a decade ago. Now, worsening drought has new attention to the company and whether Arizona should be doing more to protect its groundwater sources. Amid a broader investigation by the state attorney general, Arizona last week rescinded a pair of permits that would have allowed the Fundamenta Arizona subsidiary to drill more than 1,000 feet into the water table to pump 3,000 gallons of water per minute into the irrigate to do its crops. So I think this is the Saudi Arabia thing. Okay, so so I believe that got shut down. Now, someone earlier said, City of Chicago already sold its resources to foreign countries. Okay, so this is the Christian Science Monitor. The great sell-off, Chicago auctions city assets. The city is auctioning private assets to the highest bidder, but private ownership of parking meters stirs a backlash. No city in America beats Chicago when it comes to selling public assets, garages, bridges, even parking meters, and contracting with private companies to supply traditional. So are these foreign investors, though? Is that what you're getting at? Because I don't see anything about foreign investors. I mean, you definitely shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, so I would just be careful of the system is rigged talk. Just be careful where you're getting this information from. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that other countries aren't buying real estate in America, right? Because we have private properties. I'm just saying, think of the listen to how things are being framed. Okay, so this is a Reddit article. In 2008, the city of Chicago sold rights to collect revenue from its 36,000 parking meters to a foreign-owned company. Does the UAE own parking meters in Chicago? These buyers were led by the Morgan Stanley, but as Matt Taibbi reports in his forthcoming book, Preview the Rolling Stones, the state-owned investment arm of Abu Dhabi ended up owning a large share, possibly a controlling majority in Chicago's park. Okay, so they bought, you were talking about natural resources. So they bought a share in parking meters. Not the same as what Tucker Carlson. Can we all agree that's not the same as Tucker Carlson talking about Yosemite is going to be owned by China? Okay, so all I'm saying is be mindful especially when successful people want to tell you that the game is rigged. I don't care if it's Black Lives Matter with their $80 million fundraising that magically went into buying family members' homes and hype houses, or if it's Tucker Carlson telling you that national parks are going to be owned by China, right? Because I don't think this is. I understand what you're saying, Ken. Hyperbole. I don't think this is helpful though, because what does it do? It reinstates the little man can't get ahead, nihilistic view of the world. Nihilism is dangerous. Nihilism is dangerous because it removes the ability for you to have autonomy and purpose as a child of God to usher in the kingdom of God and the ways of God, right? So I think we have to be very, very, very careful in terms of the kind of stuff we're allowing. Just because Tucker's a conservative, that doesn't mean that he's right all the time. Just because Tucker's anti-establishment, that doesn't mean he's right all the time. And there's quite a few things I agree with him on, right? I agree with him that America's not a Christian nation. I would venture out to say, when has America ever been a Christian nation? We've been friendly to Christians, and people left to come here so they could practice religion and be left alone, which is a massive W, right? But America is as much of a Christian nation as Israel is a Jewish nation. Now depending on who's in power, Israel right now has a big push to make it more of a Jewish ethno-state and to appeal more and more to the extremists there, right, in terms of the settlements and everything that's going on with Bibi and that government, that government. But that doesn't mean that Israel is a Jewish nation. It may or may not be based on who's in power. America in the same way, when Ronald Reagan or whoever was in power, maybe it was more Christian friendly, right? But I think we have to be careful with stuff like this. So I agree with Tucker Carlson. America's not a Christian nation. I don't know when it's ever been an overtly Christian nation, though we have Christian values, and the West in general has Christian values, Judeo-Christian values. I think those are extremely important, right? I think those are extremely important. But I would just be very weary when someone who's a multimillionaire is trying to tell you that the system's rigged. I would just be very weary of that, right? Because I don't think that's helpful. We see, according to the Bible, that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.